What's going on, guys, and welcome to my Friday Night SmackDown audio review for May 27, 2022. I am Graham G.S. Matthews. Hope you guys are doing well and having a great weekend so far. A very uneventful edition of SmackDown this week, following last week's show where we got not the SmackDown Women's Championship match, that was the week before, I believe, but we did have the unification of the tag team titles, the announcement about Sasha Banks and Naomi. There's been no update on that on WWE TV from that standpoint. They haven't talked about them at all. They've only taken them out of the intros and stuff like that for the shows and whatnot, removed their merchandise from WWE Shop, which I'm not sure if I talked about last week here in the SmackDown review, but that's all that's gone down to the Sasha Banks and Naomi on WWE TV, which is really to say there has been no update, so I had some more thoughts on that on Wrestle Rant Radio from Thursday. Cheap plug, check that out. But as far as SmackDown is concerned, a very uneventful show this week. We did have some Raw stars popping up from Kevin Owens we had on the show. We had Riddle popping up again, which he might as well be a member of both brands. I mean, the guy's on SmackDown almost every fucking week despite being a member of the Raw roster. And I saw the report from Alvarez, I believe, this week. And I think he might have been speculating on Wrestling Observer Radio or whatever that the brand split is all but dead. The Raw stars are appearing on SmackDown and vice versa. I believe it was Andrew Zarian of the Mat Men podcast that added on to that, saying that according to WWE from sources within the company, the brand split is officially not dead. They're just being more lax with some of the rules, which tells me, yes, the brand split is basically dead. I mean, there's no point of a fucking brand split if you can have superstars from SmackDown and Raw appearing on each other's shows. Either incorporate some sort of a wild card rule again, which was fucking dumb to begin with, or just stop pretending that we have a brand split. I prefer a brand split, but honestly, when you look at these rosters right now and how just depleted most of the rosters are, specifically for SmackDown, they really have no choice but to merge these shows at the moment. No Roman Reigns right now, no Randy Orton for right now. Ronda Rousey, I saw, was pulled from the advertising for Money in the Bank. So I guess, and that was the other update too from this past week, which they noted here on SmackDown, which I'll get to first, that Money in the Bank is moving from Allegiant Stadium, the Raiders Stadium, where last year's SummerSlam was held, to the MGM Grand, I think the Garden area or whatever, in Vegas as well. So it's the same city, but a much smaller venue. Clearly they overestimated how many people would be buying tickets to Money in the Bank. I love Raiders Stadium. I wasn't in the normal concourse. I was in the press box or whatever last year for SummerSlam. I heard a lot of negative things about, as far as, everything shut down, you couldn't use your card. Beyond that, though, it's a very nice arena. It's an amazing facility. That being said, and maybe we were just being optimistic, it's not Hell in the Cell, it's not Extreme Rules. Money in the Bank is a bigger show. But for them to think that they could sell that many tickets to a stadium show for Money in the Bank and it wasn't even SummerSlam or something along those lines was a bit too optimistic to their credit. So it is embarrassing. They're going to have to downgrade to the MGM Grand, which only fits around, 15, 16, 17,000 people. And doing it the same weekend as a UFC pay-per-view is also probably dumb. As soon as they found out that the UFC pay-per-view would be in that same facility, or same city rather, that same weekend, 4th of July weekend, and I don't follow UFC much. I'm told that it's fight weekend normally, so that should have been expected. They should have moved it from there to somewhere else. The tickets aren't even on sale yet for the show. I think they were originally for Raiders Stadium a few weeks ago. They said here on SmackDown that tickets go on sale for the new arena, for the new venue for the show, next week. And the show is in 5 weeks from now. It's 4th of July weekend, which is really right around the corner. So that's not good. They really realistically should have moved it to a different weekend or a different city months ago. Waiting this long to move the venue when people already bought tickets for the Raiders Stadium and Allegiant Stadium was not smart. So, not a great situation. I'm all for them doing stadium shows for the bigger shows, like SummerSlam I think is cool. They're doing it for Clash of the Castle, obviously. They're doing a stadium show at SummerSlam in Nashville. Rumble as well. Survivor Series, no. It would be one thing if they did it for Survivor Series. I would say that was incredibly dumb. Money in the Bank, there was the thought there, hey, it is a bigger show. Let's try to do it in a stadium. It didn't work out. Just don't do it again, And they had Roman on and I mention all of this because not only was it announced on SmackDown that they're moving venues, which was already reported either earlier in the day or on Thursday or whatever, but Roman Reigns was on the poster for that show originally, as was Ronda Rousey. You look at the poster now, neither of them are on the show. Now, Roman Reigns, I'm not excusing it, but it does make sense to a certain extent where we were told that he wasn't being advertised for any shows, for a majority of the summer aside from Money in the Bank in SummerSlam. They probably just wanted him on the stadium shows because he's not going to be at Hell in a Cell unless they add him at the last minute. The pay-per-view's in 8 days. He's not being advertised for a match. Granted, they added the 6-man tag team match at WrestleMania Backlash at the last minute, but he was still being advertised for that show. He is no longer being advertised for Money in the Bank, and because it is in a smaller arena, they probably didn't feel it was necessary to have him on the show. Which begs the question, as I've said multiple times already in recent weeks, why the fuck would you either unify the top titles or keep the championship on him? I'm not even saying that someone should have beaten him for the belt already. I've been loving the Roman Reigns run so far. But if this is what they had in mind, and they had to have an idea a few months ago at least going into WrestleMania, that Roman Reigns, unless it's some sort of serious health issue, which is also possible, which has happened before with him, that he was not going to be around. So to put all your eggs in one basket and for that goose to leave, essentially, with both belts, is not a very good idea. And now these brands are left without really anything to fight for a while. Who the fuck is the Money in the Bank briefcase going to hold? Or who the fuck is the men's Money in the Bank winner going to cash on if Roman Reigns isn't even around until SummerSlam? They're going to have to wait until SummerSlam, which we've seen before. We've had multiple SummerSlam cash-ins in the past, but anyway, it's very silly. Roman Reigns, speaking of whom, was not on the show. Ronda Rousey was, so I was surprised that Ronda Rousey was removed from the advertising for that show. They could probably do Ronda and Raquel again at Hell in a Cell. I'm not sure if they will, but for her to be taken off the Money in the Bank advertising was surprising because she is far more regular at this point, which is weird to say, than Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns' appearances are far less frequent. It's very odd. I mean, I know why. I mean, not as far as Roman Reigns not being around. I mean, he deserves the time off, but Ronda Rousey being around more often than Roman is a little strange. So that's just the update on that. Another thing worth noting from this show, we saw him on last week's show, Max Dupree, as he wants his name to be pronounced. The former LA Knight from NXT is officially a member of the SmackDown roster. He confronted Adam Pearce a little too close face-to-face for some reason. I don't know if he's always done that, LA Knight, LA Drake, or whatever, or if that's just a Max Dupree thing. He's like leaning in for a kiss every time they talk backstage here on SmackDown. It's very weird. The way that this is like filmed and the way they kind of interact, unless it's leading to that, I mean, hey, whatever, I guess, but, it's a little strange. I mean, wrestlers always talk very close face to face, but Max Dupree was getting a little too close to comfort on SmackDown this week again. But Adam Pearce basically said, I'm not sure what the update is on the whole, Max's Maximum Modeling Agency or whatever the fuck it is. They kind of mentioned that a little bit. He just said that Dupree, not Rene Dupree, but Dupree, Max Dupree, has an official SmackDown contract. So he's on SmackDown, and it's nice to have some new blood on the show, but we already had Raquel Rodriguez come in. We've had Butch, the former Pete Dunne, come out of the show lately. Gunther, Ludvig Kaiser, who is no longer Ludwig, it's Ludvig, like Ludwig Borgen from back in the day. We've got new blood, and that's great on SmackDown. The problem is that just the show itself fucking sucks. And it's taken me a while to get to this here in this review, and I apologize in my delayed thoughts on the show from Friday. But this was not a good show. There was one or two segments I thought were fine, were very good actually. The rest of the show was business as usual. Some fine action, not an awful show, but it is a very lame show. SmackDown is one of the least excited shows. One of the shows I'm least excited for going into every single week. Like, honestly, really nothing of note happens on the show. And even when they try to make you think, oh, we got a big mystery partner for the main event, it's exactly who you think it would be. And not only that, spoiler, it's in the fucking title of this video, but Drew McIntyre was the mystery partner for the New Day on this show, okay? So he teams with them in the main event. They promoted this mystery partner all week on social media. On TV, they mentioned it last week. They've been advertising this for a week. The problem is that on that very same fucking show a week ago, they said Drew would be back on this episode of SmackDown. So when this episode headlines the show, and we haven't seen Drew yet, you kind of start to think, okay, you put the pieces together, it's Drew McIntyre, and sure enough, it was. The match was fine, but it's just the same fucking shit on the show week after week. And whenever we do get something slightly different, it's just not all that entertaining or exciting or engaging. It's just kind of there. So we get to the opening segment. The undisputed WWE Tag Team Champions is what they're calling them now. The Usos, who had unified the Raw and SmackDown Tag Team Championships last week, still coming out with all the championships, and I'm sure they're going to do that for a while. They want that visual of the entire bloodline holding all the gold, the tag team titles, the world titles, whatever. They were out there kind of playing to the audience, which was weird. Initially, I'm thinking, are they turning face or something? Are they just doing this in light of recent events or whatever? And then it became clear, okay, they're going to turn on the audience. They did. They actually kind of got me. I thought they were like cutting a babyface promo. It was a little weird. But they turned the tables, shit on the audience, classic heel promo, only to be interrupted by Shinsuke Nakamura. Now, Nakamura is still without a tag team partner. Rick Boogs is still out injured, and he will be for a while. I think he tore his ACL or something like that, so he had surgery. It was successful. I'm pretty sure he's going to be out for at least another couple months, if not longer. He's without a tag team partner. The other guy without a tag team partner right now is Riddle, who announced on Raw this week that Randy Orton is out injured. I assume that's legit. They played it up as if it was the Bloodline's fault with the attack they laid on RK Bro last week, which I'm sure they did it by design, knowing Orton was taking time off. So both men are without partners at the moment. They're teaming up, and Nakamura even said, "We're challenging you for the tag team titles." Now, we didn't get that match on the show, thankfully. Maybe they save it for Hell in the Cell, which needs more SmackDown presence. A majority of the matches on that show are from Raw. There's no top championship match from SmackDown on that show. Maybe we'll get another Corbin Moss match, which, God, I fucking hope not. I would like to see Gunther versus Ricochet for the Intercontinental Championship on that show. Not yet made official. But anyway, no SmackDown Women's Championship match so far on that show. Just add Nakamura and Riddle versus the Usos. I like the pairing. I'm sure they'll work well together. I do not want to see Nakamura and Riddle knock off the long-standing reign of the Usos. Of everyone they've faced and beaten in the last near year, the Usos should not be losing to a makeshift team of Nakamura and Riddle. Now, I'm not even saying that's what they're going to do, but I always get worried with them because I feel like they might do that to build to Riddle. Like, oh, I took the Usos championships, time to begin the build to me and Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns, I want your championships too. I could see them doing that. I would hope they wouldn't. I just think that would be stupid because they're not going to last long as a tag team. But I'm all for the match. The match sounds fun. I would just have Nakamura and Riddle lose. So that is what it is. And like I said, if Roman Reigns isn't at Money in the Bank, it kind of poses a problem. The initial report from about a week ago, which made sense to me, was that Roman Reigns was set to defend against Riddle at Money in the Bank, Randy Orton at SummerSlam, assuming he's back by then, and I'm sure he will be. I mean, it's in 2 months. SummerSlam is not in August this year. It's in like July 30th. It's in literally 2 months, which is very weird to me. I'm not sure if he will be back by then. I guess we'll see. Maybe they could do Riddle and Roman on that show instead, I guess. And then Drew and Roman at Clash of the Castle. It's very clear they're kind of deviating away from Drew and Roman for now. It kind of reminds me of the whole Hangman thing, where Hangman and Paige teased their feud. In the summer of last year, Paige had to take time off because he became a father. His wife had a baby, so he left for a little while. This Drew thing with Roman was not unexpected. I mean, they knew Roman Reigns would not be around, so they did that by design. The Adam Page, Kenny Omega thing, they didn't really have a choice. I don't think. I would hope they didn't know going into it that, we're not going to do the match. That's an AEW issue, but with McIntyre and Roman, I guess just RK Bro needed the third partner. Drew was the guy. He had nothing else going on, so they made him the partner, even though they lost, and we'll get back to that feud at some point later this year, probably in time for a Clash of the Castle. So anyway, I'm fine with the match. Do not give Nakamura and Riddle the tag team titles, please. I just don't think that makes any sense. I could see what they would be going for with that. I just think it'd be stupid. But anyway, speaking of tag teams, we had another one after that. But even before the tag team match, we had an impromptu kind of SmackDown Women's Championship rematch between Ronda Rousey and Raquel Rodriguez. Now, I say impromptu. They actually advertised it a week ago, or not a week ago, God forbid. God forbid you advertise anything in advance. And they did with the main event to give them credit, but they advertised this earlier in the day on Twitter is where I first saw it. So they announced this for the show earlier in the day on Twitter, completely fucking random. Raquel did take Ronda to the limit in their last match 2 weeks ago. I'm not sure. I mean, that was an open challenge. This was not an open challenge. I'm not sure what she did to deserve another opportunity. I mean, I guess she beat fucking Shotzi or whoever last week, I guess. It became clear this was not going to have a clean finish when right before the commercial break, right before the bout got started, we saw Shayna Baszler, Natalya, and Shotzi backstage, kind of complaining about, why does Raquel get another opportunity? We should do something about this. So the only thing I'm glad about, the match was like barely a minute long, which is fine. Save the rematch for a later date. They shouldn't have done it to begin with. At least they didn't wait fucking 10 minutes into the match, 5, 10, 15 minutes into the match before interrupting. That would have been very dumb. So I'm glad this was barely a match. That quickly turned into Ronda and Raquel versus Natalya and Shayna. Now, yes, Shayna and Ronda were in the same match as opponents. We saw it a little bit at the Royal Rumble. They never turned against each other. They actually worked together, if anything. They were on opposing teams here. And I was very worried they were just going to blow it off or honestly even forget that they were partners to begin with. And that sounds silly, but this is WWE. They forget a lot of this shit. They forget what they fucking ate for breakfast this morning, specifically Vince, I'm sure. So I was kind of worried. Thankfully, they kept them apart. There was one interaction between the two where they didn't get physical. They just kind of stared each other off. They had a stare down. And then Ronda was taken out of the ring. And I think Raquel went after Shayna or whatever. So that's what happened. They didn't get physical. I would still save that for down the road. I'm not even sure how many people would care at this point about Shayna Baszler challenging Ronda Rousey for the championship. But, I mean, honestly, given the history between the two, I would like to see it, but that's just me. The match was solid. Ronda and Raquel went over here with Raquel actually being the one to pick up the victory. I think by pinning Shayna, but I'm not 100% sure. So they picked up the win here. They're doing the whole unlikely allies thing with them. Like I said, I could see this leading to a rematch between the two, probably at Hell in the Cell next Sunday. I'd be completely fine with that. And then Ronda wins again. Maybe another loss would be what leads to Raquel turning heel, snapping. I don't think so. They kind of have enough heels right now. They need more baby faces in the absence of Sasha and Naomi, who were on SmackDown. So they'll probably keep Raquel babyface, unfortunately. She's not an awful face, but the whole smiling thing gets old after a while. Another thought that I had coming out of this match, and I really, 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 really hope they don't do this, is that they're going to put, we expect Natalya and Shayna will be in it, but I'm not really looking forward to if they do this, the idea of Ronda and Raquel teaming up and being put in the apparent upcoming women's tag team title tournament. Like I said, we found out last week that Sasha and Naomi would be stripped of the WWE women's tag team titles. A tournament would be held to crown new champions. Probably 4 teams. People talking about, they don't even have 8 teams. Why the fuck would they do an 8-team tournament? They literally just said maybe they will do 8 teams and they'll include teams from NXT. I'm not even sure if that's enough. And they don't even have enough women to do makeshift tag teams either. So, I always assumed it would be a 4-team tournament. They never said 8-team, whatever. What are the odds they put Ronda and Raquel in there as partners and have them win the whole fucking thing? I'm not sure if that would be worse than Becky and Asuka becoming champions together. Someone pitched that on #AskGSM this week and said maybe that's a possibility. God, I fucking hope not. I'm just so beyond done with that whole tired shit. I hate when they do it with the men's tag team titles, let alone with the women's tag team titles, which we have seen before. They did it with Nia and Shayna. They did it with Charlotte and Asuka. They've done it a lot in the past. Please do not do it again. We had Los Lotharios taking on Jinder Mahal and Shanky. Completely fucking random match. Shanky did not come out with Jinder initially. He was too busy in the back vibing backstage. I believe the Jinder's music. I don't give a fuck about Jinder, but honestly, his music is pretty good. So he eventually gets Shanky back on track, brings him out to the ring with him. They have the match. It was fine. I love Los Lotharios. They're very talented. I couldn't give 2 fucks about Jinder and Shanky. The match was what it was. Los Lotharios winning is nice. I doubt this win really does anything for them, just because the focus was almost entirely on Jinder and Shanky, and the fact that Shanky was too busy gyrating towards Samantha Irving, I believe her name is, the real-life girlfriend of Ricochet, who was not out there to save his woman, by the way. I guess in WWE canon, they're not together. But if that was my fucking girlfriend, I'd be pissed. Anyway, so Shanky was gyrating in front of her, and Angel got distracted from that, or Humberto, or whatever. They kind of went back and forth. That distracted Jinder, who ended up getting beaten for the win for Los Lotharios. So that was what it was. The match was whatever. I could not give 2 fucks about the Jinder and Shanky stuff if I tried. Honestly, they teased tension a while ago, well over a month ago. They moved away from it. They weren't on TV. Now they're back and they're teasing tension again. Honestly, who could possibly care? Then we had the highlight of the show. Kevin Owens was on SmackDown. Why? Because fuck the brand split, that's why. Hosting the KO show with the Bloodline. Or so we were told before the commercial break. Instead of Roman and or the Usos coming out, we had Sami Zayn, who is now coming out of the segment an honorary member of the Bloodline per the Usos, which I was not expecting. I figured they would just say, fuck off, Sami. But no, he confronted them afterwards. They gave him an honorary title of member of the Bloodline or whatever. I don't know. Obviously, they were just doing that to use the guy, but I thought it was funny. So anyway, even before all that, in the ring, we had the KO show with KO and Sami. And I can't begin to do this thing justice and recap everything that they talked about, but, they mentioned that they previously had bad blood. And I'm not even talking about from years and decades ago. I'm talking about from last year. They literally just feuded. The last time we saw these two interact, I believe, was when they feuded last year, and they finished off their feud, that great last man standing match on SmackDown as the Money in the Bank qualifier, and then KO won that. That was the last time they interacted on television, I believe. So they were back here. They acknowledged that it was water under the bridge. Both guys are heels now, whatever. Sami says, "You're right, Kevin. It's not, Ezekiel and Elias are indeed the same person. I believe you." And he was acting all over the top about it, but Kevin Owens took it very seriously and hugged him. Almost looked like he was crying. The whole selling of this from Owens and Sami was amazing. Both guys are MVPs on their respective shows right now. They're fucking fantastic, and I'm so sick of them feuding and teaming and whatever, but they are always great whenever they interact. And I'm glad we got this here because it made sense. KO tried to recruit Sami over to Raw with him to take care of Elias or Ezekiel, whatever. And Sami said, "No, I'm busy with the bloodline. I'm busy with managing the SmackDown locker room." KO said, "What are you talking about? They don't even like you. You're not even a member of the bloodline." He called them out. They didn't come out with Sami. They didn't give a fuck about him. And Sami said, "You know what? I take that back. I was being nice before. Elias and Ezekiel are indeed two different people. They take pictures together. They don't even look alike. Elias has a beard. Ezekiel does not." It was great. The whole segment was fucking great. And when Sami Zayn called Kevin Owens a liar, liar, pants on fire, and Kevin Owens saying it was a step too far, that was awesome. This whole segment was fucking great. This is really the only thing really worth going out of your way to see from SmackDown this week. I promise you. So this was great stuff. Gunther and Ludvig Kaiser taking on the Intercontinental Champion Ricochet and Drew Gulak. I mentioned before, it's Ludvig Kaiser now. I believe they made that official. I saw that on Twitter the other day. Not Ludwig. So Ludvig, like Ludvig, what did I say? Not Kaiser. Ludvig Borgen back in the day in WWE. Whatever. So the match was what it was, only around 5 or 6 minutes. They made the most of the time they had. It was well wrestled. It was exactly what it needed to be, really, with Gunther and Kaiser going over. What I didn't expect, though, was that Kaiser would pick up the win for his team. And I like that. This actually marked the in-ring debut of Kaiser on SmackDown, and he picked up the win to establish some credibility for himself. Now, he pinned Gulak, who gives a shit, but a win is a win. I thought that was well done. They beat up Ricochet afterward as well. My mind has not changed. This has to be leading to a match between the two, as they're obviously hinting at. And it can't be like the second or third match. Keep Gunther undefeated. Just give him the fucking Intercontinental Championship. The belt means next to nothing at this point, so you might as fucking well. Just give him the championship. And I'm hoping they will. Maybe even as soon as the pay-per-view next Sunday. We get to the main event. Drew McIntyre and the New Day's Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods versus all of the Brawling Brutes. Still a stupid name, by the way. Sheamus, Ridge Holland, and Butch. Like I said, Drew McIntyre was the mystery partner in this match for the New Day. We knew he was going to be on this show. They literally said a week ago, they've been saying for weeks, oh, he's over in the UK doing a promotional tour for Clash of the Castle. He'll be back next week, though. That's literally what they said a week ago. And when he didn't show up, leading into the main event, you kind of had to know it was Drew McIntyre. It wasn't going to be Cesaro. I mean, I even speculated Cesaro or Tyler Breeze or whoever else. No, it was Drew. And I like Drew. But you could even tell the crowd was like, oh, cool. Okay, that's not very... they were building it up as if it was this big person. And Drew's a big star, but he's only been gone for 2 or 3 weeks, and everyone kind of figured it was him. So that was kind of disappointing. The match was basically every 6-man tag team match you've ever seen in the main event of a house show before. It was entertaining from an in-ring standpoint, hardly anything out of the ordinary. I am just ready for this feud to be fucking over. Holy shit, the New Day versus the Brutes has been going on forever, it feels like. Move the fuck on. Hopefully this is the payoff. I'm thinking it won't be, but I'm hoping it will be because I just have no desire to see this continue. And I don't even really know what you do with Drew. If Drew's not going for the championship until later this year, what do you do with him? Gunther is busy in the Intercontinental Championship picture, and those matches would be great, but the problem is that I wouldn't do that right now because Gunther should be winning, and Drew should probably be maintaining momentum as well. So I wouldn't do that feud right now. Do you do Drew and Sheamus again? I mean, they had 1 million matches last year. You could go back to it, I guess. They work well together. That doesn't inspire a lot of confidence. We've seen it a lot before. I'm not even really sure what you do because Gunther's in the Intercontinental Championship picture. That IC title means nothing anyway, so Drew should not be going after that. Who else did they even have? Kevin Owens isn't on SmackDown. Sami Zayn, they did him and Drew 1 million times, so you can't go back to that. They already did Drew and Jinder a lot last year. Riddle's on Raw. Nakamura's a babyface. Could you do Riddle and Drew versus the Usos and have that lead into Riddle versus Roman? Or that leading into Drew versus Roman? I guess. Literally, SmackDown has no fucking stars. Because if they're not doing Drew and Roman anytime soon, the guy is fucked. And they'll probably find something for him to do. I'm just worried it's not going to be any good because they have no stars on SmackDown. What, him and Max Dupree? I mean, maybe. I don't see that happening. So, I mean, hey, listen, you could have done a fucking Pete Dunne and Drew McIntyre feud if they didn't lump all the Europeans together and call them fucking Butch. At this point, I could not give two shits about that potential program. I just don't care. So, they have a real issue on SmackDown as far as star power goes and slotting people, where do they go on the card, all this other bullshit. So, that's an issue. Another abysmal edition of SmackDown on the whole. I've seen worse episodes. I've seen better episodes. You really did not miss much if you did not watch this show. Drew McIntyre is back. Great. The Sami and KO segment on the KO show was money. Definitely make time to watch that. That was well worth the while. That was well worthwhile. But the rest of it, like, the Gunther stuff was what it was. That was what it was supposed to be. The women's title stuff is fine. The tag team title stuff is fine. There's nothing overly exciting about this show right now. It is what it is. Sami Zayn, I feel like, is carrying this show on his fucking back because he is easily the best part of the show every single week. But, that was SmackDown in a nutshell for May 27, 2022. Thank you guys for checking out my review of the show. My written review is up right now as we speak over at WrestleRant.com, so check that out when you get a chance for more thoughts on the show in written form. And my Talking Smack review should also be up today as well, so check that out when you get a chance. With all that being said, guys, have an awesome rest of your weekend. Be sure to like this video, drop a comment, share the video, and subscribe to the channel for more daily content. Have an awesome Memorial Day on Monday if you're in the States. If not, have a great Monday. I'm Graham G. Matthews, and I'll catch your ass down the road.